Welcome back again this week to another analysis behind the news. I'm going to talk about three things. First of all, I want to talk about the individual that used the gyrocopter to land on the lawn in Washington, D.C. Secondly, I want to talk about the Pakistani situation vis-a-vis our military and the Chinese government. And then last, I want to talk about the fast-track legislation that's before Congress right now. First of all, according to the Wall Street Journal this morning, it says Gyrocopter pilot says message has been lost. And that's true. It has been more or less sold as a breach of security, national security, where this guy can fly in under the radar and land in a lawn there in the Capitol to supposedly deliver 535 letters to congressmen on campaign finance reform. Now, if you go to his website, you'll find out that what he really wanted to do was to draw attention to the need for a constitutional convention for this initiative. Wolfpack, the founder of Wolfpack, originally was financed by George Soros, has been promoting around the country a constitutional convention in the name of campaign finance reform. And they've gotten a couple of states to pass it. This belies the idea that the Constitutional Convention or Convention of the States or whatever else you want to call it has to do only with conservative issues, and specifically the most conservative issue is a balanced budget. But quietly behind the scenes they've been doing this as well, primarily to get corporations unrecognized, if you will, to use that term, as individuals. In other words, corporate bodies are looked upon as individuals today, and therefore they are judged as individuals when it comes to campaign contributions. Now, the ramifications of overturning that idea would lead to the complete overturning of protection that people get by forming corporations. A lot of people form corporations so that their personal finances are immune from what the corporation does. If I want to start a business and I incorporate, then my house and my car and that sort of thing are immune from any bankruptcy that may come about as a result of that corporation or being sued, liable for this, that, or the other. So in the long run, this has more to do with corporations and how they're formed than simply looking at whether or not they contribute to a campaign. But at any rate, the point is this. This man is complaining because the news media have obfuscated or not even talked at all about why he did what he did. And what he did was to draw attention to the need for a liberal initiative for a constitutional convention. You might think about that the next time you're talking about this subject to a state legislature whose decision will be made in the next few weeks as to whether his state joins the other states that want a constitutional convention. It will not be completely conservative. There are a lot of other people involved. When it comes to Pakistan, we know that Pakistan buys 70% of the military production of the Chinese that's exported every year. There is this close linkage between Pakistan and China. Pakistan is known for passing on secrets. For instance, they deny it, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence to the contrary, that they pass on secrets of atomic nature, nuclear, all sorts of different things to other countries in exchange for, deals or friendship or whatever it is. China and Pakistan have grown so close that they have announced today an economic corridor plan worth $46 billion. In other words, what they're trying to do is to unite their energy and infrastructure in Pakistan worth $148 billion with China. Let me read the first sentence to this article out of Reuters. China and Pakistan launched a plan on Monday, today, for energy and infrastructure projects in Pakistan worth $46 billion, linking their economies and underscoring China's economic ambitions in Asia and beyond. That's how close China and Pakistan have become. When they buy 70% of their industrial output that's exported for military purposes. Interestingly enough, today as well in the Wall Street Journal is a op-ed piece, why are we sending this attack helicopter to Pakistan? And it shows a picture of the AH-1Z Viper, which is a military attack helicopter. And we're going to be sending a number of these to Pakistan. Now, interesting enough, when you take a look at that, and then the closeness that the Chinese have and the Pakistani governments have become, do you not think perhaps maybe just a little bit that one of those helicopters would come under scrutiny by the Chinese military apparatus to take a look and see how it's constructed, to understand its strengths and weaknesses, perhaps to replicate it in their own factories, or at least certain aspects of it? You see, when it comes to dealing with Pakistan, our federal government has never been very wise. The Pakistani intelligence services actually were very much involved in training terrorists. The very same terrorists, for instance, that George Bush pointed out in the attacks in 9/11, and the first country he runs to become our first ally in the war against terror was Pakistan. So you see, it isn't only the Obama administration and that sort of thing, it includes the Bush people too. When you start to look at all these interlinkage between these countries and what they stand for and what their goals are and how they cooperate with each other and so on and so forth, we get in bed with some very strange people. We give them our military secrets. We just hand it to them. And then they, in turn, give it to the Russians, the Chinese, et cetera, and more, even broader than that, really. So it's a real serious problem we've had in the federal government, in the Department of State, since at least the days of Franklin Pierce, and in our military ranks since at least the days of Abraham Lincoln. We can trace back to these two entities in the federal government where communists have come into those entities and have helped the communists overseas, etc., in the various things that they've done. Today it's manifested primarily in their membership of the Secretaries of State and Defense in the Council on Foreign Relations, because they stand for a new world order and so on and so forth. In other words, a one world government. That is the goal of the communist movement, a one world government. All they argue about is how they are going to get there and who's going to be the guy in charge when it's all put together. But they're all going to the same goal. Finally, and very briefly, we want to talk about the fast track bill that is being formulated and will be placed before Congress very soon. In there, they said the proposal will require the president to consult with Congress at key points in the negotiations. Well, that's kind of silly, isn't it? Because the negotiations have already taken place. And this is a real serious problem. When you go and visit these people about fast track, they say, they meaning certain members of Congress, say that they will be able to control the action of the president through fast track. That's the ostensive purpose, but in reality the practice is completely the opposite. It gives the president the excuse to do what he has already been doing. You see, he's been violating in spirit the Constitution of the United States by entering into secret negotiations. And now, through fast track, they're going to say, well, no, we want him to open this up and tell us what they've been negotiating. Well, this is after the fact. It's closing the barn door after the horse is out, so to speak. It's giving the excuse, as I've said before, for excusing what the president's doing. It's sort of like based on the idea that it's easier to get forgiveness than it is permission. That's what they're doing here. They're giving forgiveness to the president for being secret after the fact. This is wrong. It's not good for the people of the United States. It violates the Constitution of the United States. If it's good for our economy, if it's good for the people, open it up let the people see what's in it, then they can decide for themselves whether this is a good deal or a bad deal, whether it's the Pacific Union they're trying to form or the Atlantic Union, all in the name of so-called free trade. Dangerous stuff. When we start to bring a lot of these things together and look at what's really going on, we discover that there is no difference behind the scenes between the trade deals and the con. The same people are promoting them behind the scenes. Until next week, we'll see you then.